Hi, I'm Jack Baruzzini, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Jeff Haker. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Jack.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Jack.
Today we are discussing the second episode of Season 2 of Stargate Atlantis, The Intruder. The Daedalus, en route to the Atlantis, is sabotaged by a Wraith AI virus that kills a crew member and causes a series of accidents. The virus, designed to surrender the ship to the Wraith, broadcasts a distress call and takes control of various systems, including the F-302 fighters in the hangar. The crew, led by Lieutenant Colonel Shepard, and Dr. McKay, race against time to eliminate the virus by shutting down and rebooting the ship's various computer systems, and ultimately engaging in an AI-controlled fighter battle in space. Flashbacks reveal the tensions between the military and the civilian leadership regarding Shepard's command and Weir's personal life. Despite the challenges and close calls, the crew is able to successfully eradicate the virus before it can lead them into their demise in a nearby star. What are your thoughts on this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, this is another pretty fun one, and it's cool that you barely get to Atlantis in this. You're almost only on the Daedalus with a little bit of Stargate Command and a little bit of Earth in Weir's house and Ward's cousin's house, but it's almost taking place just on the Daedalus, and you get some cool exterior shots of it, like a close up on the transmitter dish, and then you get the cool fighter battle at the end. So yeah, it's a fun one. Everyone's kind of working together to solve the problem, and really it does kind of feel like early Stargate in that way. Like everybody's contributing to the solution, and all working together as a team and not off doing separate things, or people aren't getting sidelined really. So yeah, it was a fun one.
Especially after Avalon parts 1 and 2. This was a breath of fresh air. What about you, Victor?
Yeah, it's really good. I just feel like we've seen it before, but we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it has really cool trappings. I mean, we get to explore the Daedalus, which is, the new fancy ship, and we really haven't spent a lot of time on it. It just kind of shows up, kicks some butt in the first in the Siege part 3, and then we really don't see it. So this is our chance to kind of see it and explore it. And of course things are going wrong, because that's the most interesting way to explore something like this. We get some cool flashbacks. Even though we saw General Landry in Avalon's part 1 and 2, I feel like this is the first time we actually see him as, the fully realized version of that character, which is kind of the big affable teddy bear, but also, cunning and kind of, respectful of Weir and stuff. So I think this is the first time we actually see Landry as, where Beau Bridges has the character kind of down even before we see him on SG-1. And then we see some boring flashbacks as well. Simon is pretty much the worst. I mean, it's anytime they come up with a strong female lead on Stargate, they have to make the boyfriend like the most. I don't know if he's on like Thorazine or Ben. I don't know what he. It looks like he's just like on,
Mr.
Barbitura's this. Yeah, he is, and he has no pulse whatsoever. We later learn that he's met someone else, but why doesn't he tell her that like right away? I don't know. Simon's just the worst, and I'm glad that we don't really see him again after this. I don't think he's the worst.
Simon makes me think much nicer of Pete.
Yeah. Pete at least like had a pulse, like I said, but it's Garwin Sanford who played the boring Tolan guy. So,
I knew he looked familiar.
Yeah.
It's just
I
hard to
forgot
remember
he was in
who
that one.
Yeah. Well, he played it. He was in several episodes as
Yeah.
Sam's, somewhat love interest, but again, was just too boring for the screen. But other than that, we get some cool ship things. Inexplicably, they decide that Shepard has to blow up one of the most useful parts of the ship, which seemed kind of rash and impulsive, but we'll get into that too.
They could have just disconnected it.
Yeah.
I would also think that
maybe they wouldn't have had time to suit up and get out there and do all that. And it was cool to get him out in the F-302 to shoot something. So
the whole time that I was watching this, I was just thinking of Battlestar Galactica and how they have all the systems are not networked together to circumvent this problem explicitly.
Yeah, because this was airing at the same time, I believe, as the Battlestar Galactica. So
And it is interesting. I feel like this is the first like starship centric episode of SG1 or of Stargate that we've had.
Yeah, Prometheus Unbound was, where we were first introduced to Vala, and she and Daniel were stuck on the Prometheus. So that was, I think, probably the first one that, and then when they stole the Prometheus as well, but that really we won't count that one. But unfortunately, we don't get to see Walter flying an Alkesh and saving the day with his dogfighting skills in this one.
True. Yeah, it seems like they've got to be very careful to not just turn into Star Trek, which any science fiction show set on a spaceship has that kind of issue. And I feel like they did a good job of it. I would have liked to see more Earth-based stuff going on, because they have some flashbacks, but it's not really enough to even call it a B plot, I feel like.
Yeah, so where we start the episode is Weir and Shepard and Beckett and McKay and a bunch of other scientists. Basically, they're repopulating and expanding the Atlantis expedition. So it's a bunch of scientists and stuff that are all being ferried back. The ZPM in Atlantis lets them dial back to Earth, but there's no ZPM in the Milky Way galaxy, so they have to take a 20-day spaceship ride through hyperspace back to the Pegasus galaxy. So on their way back, this is probably 40, 50, 60 days after, the siege part 3. So a couple, 3 months, because, while they were able to gate to Earth, the Daedalus had to fly back to Earth, probably refit and restock and stuff, and then fly back to Pegasus with all the people and stuff. So, So we're seeing flashbacks to their time on Earth. We get to see more of Mitch Pileggi as Colonel Caldwell too, which is enjoyable. It's always great to see him in everything that he does.
Yeah, he adds a lot of good presence.
Yeah, Peter DeLuise on the commentary was talking about the stare that he can give, and so we see that quite a bit in this episode, where he just like kind of stares at people and through people.
Yeah. And we get Hermione back, who's I feel like he's my new favorite Stargate character.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't see a ton of him going forward, but yeah, he's very good in this, and we get to see his interactions with Colonel Shepard, who asks, the question that you always want to ask the Asgard, is, like, should he be naked? Which no one seems to ask. Maybe Jack O'Neill asked it at some point, but yeah.
And I really like the special effects shots in this episode are really good. Like seeing the ship on the outside, the lighting and everything. I'm pretty sure this is all CGI, but a lot of it looked like good model work.
Yeah, it is all CGI, but they had brought in an in-house visual effects team at this point. And so, it was dedicated to just, working on Stargate Atlantis, basically. So they do a really good job with the ship. I mean, the ship looks great, and it's, I think, probably the best looking ship in Stargate, and probably, sci-fi of the era, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they reuse the model quite a bit, because I forget how many Daedalus class ships we see, but because they don't ever do another Prometheus class. It was only ship of that one. So there's at least 3 or 4 Daedalus class that we see in the show. I can't remember if there's any more than that, but yeah, later in SG1 we start to see where they actually start to get like a little bit of a fleet of them, which is cool. And I don't think in the siege we saw the F302s really. So I don't know if they just didn't have them or they just didn't have the budget for them, but it is cool seeing it as a carrier for the F302s, because I do like the F302s. I think they're a pretty cool like fighter ship. So we get a lot of some good dogfight action here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so the main plot of this is that on the return trip, they soon discover that there's some sort of intruder or entity at work on the ship that's sabotaging systems, and every time someone gets close to discovering what this entity might be, the entity kills them in some way. It'll either electrocute them or it'll open an airlock and and suck them out into space. And so the entity is definitely, very a force to be reckoned with in this, just like in that one SG-1 episode, Entity, where there was an entity that took over Stargate Command. They had to figure out how to purge it of the entity. It was funny though on the commentary because Malazzi and Mully wrote this episode, and it's very good. They cover a lot of ground. There's a lot of, they build the tension on the ship. They use the flashbacks effectively, as boring as Simon is. And there's space dog fights. They have to solve the problem. Things escalate, like I said. But on the commentary, Peter DeLuise, even who directed this episode, even said, "Hey, they're doing my episode from SG-1 that he wrote, Entity, and there they finally think that they've purged the entity or the intruder in this case, which is a computer virus, in this case a Wraith computer virus, by powering everything down. Only in Entity, it's moved onto a MALP as kind of a temporary host, and then it moves back into the Stargate Command mainframe. And in this, of course, it very cleverly moves into an F-302, which I thought was cool. And it does give us a chance to see that AI dogfight with Shepard and McKay reluctantly.
They could have just circumvented all the troubleshooting and stuff they had to do by asking it to how many R's are in the little letter strawberry or the word strawberry.
Is that a trick?
Apparently, there was some bug with, it might have been ChatGPT, where you would ask it how many R's are in the word strawberry, and it could not figure it out.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's something they fixed now, but apparently this was an issue where it just could not figure out how many R's there were.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Wraith virus is designed to do some pretty nefarious things, but activate when they get back in the Pegasus galaxy. At first it's because the Wraith don't want to destroy the ship. They want to find out the secrets of, advanced hyperspace travel. And because the Wraith hyperspace ships have to drop out of hyperspace, every once in a while to cool down their engines or whatever. And they also want the location of Earth. So their plan is to disable the ship and then point it towards Wraith land and have it fly itself there. And then when that doesn't work, their plan is to fly it near the coronosphere of a nearby sun and kill all the humans and then fly it to Wraith land. So we get this kind of ratcheting up of the tension. Some pretty effective, horror where the one doctor guy, I forget what his name is, unfortunately, but is it Monroe?
Winstrom?
I don't know. He's Winstrom. That was it. Yeah. Lindstrom. Yeah. Is sucked out an airlock and stuff, which is pretty effective, horror and stuff. So.
Yeah, it also reminded me a lot of 2001: A Space Odyssey, because you see like the looking through the intruder looking through the camera, and it started. I could almost imagine it being HAL 9000 and starting to read people's lips, and it sends them out the airlock just like HAL does in Space Odyssey.
Yeah. And the episodes that Peter DeLuise directs, he always has some homage to a film or something. He borrows from a lot of different things. And he even consciously pointed out to on the commentary, he was doing it with Gary Jones, who plays Walter on SG-1. He even pointed out that hey, you see that shot with that fisheye lens and it's red tinted? That was, basically me doing 2001 with the HAL, viewpoint out into the people on the ship.
Nice. Yeah, it's I thought the structure was a bit odd of the episode. I think it's just the flashbacks kind of break up the tension, but it was nice to see what they'd been doing while they were back at Earth and kind of get that connection. I understand why they didn't want to do an entire full episode just of here's what we're doing on Earth. So it makes sense to do it this way.
If you like that, wait till Stargate Universe, and there's lots of back and forth with Earth.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's just show us a spaceship. But yeah, no, it is disorienting because you're on the spaceship and you're on, are they on the Daedalus? Where are they going? It's they're coming back from Earth. What were they doing on Earth? And then you kind of have to piece out, the time and that Major Shepard's been promoted to Lieutenant Colonel Shepard. And we get to see how that happens with, we are basically going to the wall with, Caldwell and Landry to get him his promotion and keep him in charge of the Atlantis expedition, which introduces some friction with Caldwell because he wanted the post of military commander of Atlantis. Instead, he has to just settle for being the commander of the Daedalus. And so you're like, oh no, is he going to be a villain? Or Rodney, once the entity or the intruder kills the first crewman, Rodney wants to jump out of hyperspace, but obviously they don't know where they are and who's around him. So it's very risky. But as soon as Rodney pieces together that it wasn't an accidental death, something intentionally killed the crewman and maybe trying to sabotage the ship, like instantly Caldwell orders them to drop out of hyperspace. So you see that he really, he's a good commander and wants to protect the ship and the crew. So, which I like, he has a difference of opinion. He didn't get the job he wanted, but he's not going to do a heel turn and become, evil or anything.
Yeah, I appreciate that he's a consummate professional, and it's nice to have someone who's a foil to the main characters who's not an antagonist.
Yeah. Yeah. Who else do we get in this? We get Heather Dirksen as the bridge pilot, who we'll see more of on the Daedalus, I think. So that's cool. We get a weird scene with Ford's cousin, where I guess she tries to guilt trip Shepard or something. I mean,
I don't know what they were going for. Like,
yeah,
Ford signed up for the mission, and
I mean, just signing up for the military is a risk.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
he's missing in action. We don't know where he is. He's missing in action. He may be dead. He might be okay. I just want to let you know he's missing in action. There's a word for that they don't actually
use.
Use. Yeah. You can't tell me where he was. No, I can't, but I can tell you that he's missing in action and that we're going to keep looking for him. Well, maybe if he had a better commander, he wouldn't be missing in action. It's what? These things happen.
Not being able to reveal the location has nothing to do with it being Stargate. Like, that's would be pretty standard in any military.
Yeah, we were in Laos or something, and
he's turned into a Marlon Brando.
Yeah, exactly. Oh wait, yeah, pretty much.
Is that basically what happens?
When they bother to resolve it, yes.
Colonel Kurtz in space.
Yeah, Peter Pan, Colonel Kurtz in space type thing. But yeah, so that part's weird. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, and like I said, Shepard has to fly the 302, and they figure out that they're now beaming a distress call, which the Wraith is sure to pick up thanks to the virus. And their solution for it is for Shepard to fly out and blow up their little satellite dish, which will disable their communications, but also their Asgard beaming technology or the targeting sensors for their So you're thinking it's like, okay, now they have to fly basically to Atlantis and then back to Earth to get that fixed. And that's like, a month and a half where they won't have beaming and they won't have communications. It's it seems kind of short-sighted to me, but
maybe they have the spares in the cargo bay and they can put them on when they're docked up at Atlantis.
I don't know. I mean, maybe there's an ancient lab or something where they can like print some more or something. I don't know. It just seemed like very short-sighted to me. But again, we do get to see them blow it up and go, yay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it though, because like, what are you going to do? If you can't, I mean, you could maybe spacewalk out there, but it's a military ship, so it's probably like there's probably armor, and it could probably take a while to actually be able to actually physically cut the power to it, because they never would have thought of we need to actually do this, so there's probably not an easy way to do it. So I think they were just we need to shut this off before because the longer it goes on, the greater the chances that it could be picked up by the Wraith eventually, and they were already starting to lose control. So I kind of
yeah. And then we get the cool thing where then the F-302 gets a mind of its own and starts flying away from the Daedalus at top speed, and they have to beam Shepard out using his radio signal instead of the precise Asgard sensors and stuff. And so Shepard, who's seated in his cockpit, is beamed to the bridge, standing up. At which point my son said, like, why isn't he sitting down, when he's beamed to the bridge? And apparently that was their plan. Peter DeLuise on the commentary said his plan was to have him beamed in, kind of like sitting down and then like fall down. And he was told, no, you can't do that. It's too funny. And this isn't a funny moment, so you have to have him just standing up.
My headcanon for stuff like that is that the whatever computer systems they use to beam have some sort of, when they're reconstituting you, they put you standing up so you're not going to fall over.
But they didn't do that to Ford and the Wraith.
Because
they were
the system works entirely by what needs to be done dramatically.
Yeah.
And Ford was unconscious at that point, so
yeah. But you're right. If he'd been standing up, he would have just fallen over anyways. But yeah, but just know that if Peter DeLuise had his way, Shepard would have been beamed onto the bridge, kind of sitting down and then just like fallen on his butt.
They should have kept that in.
Yeah.
But they did kind of add that joke later when they were beaming Rodney and he's scrunching down because he's like, these aren't as precise as the Asgard sensors.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to make himself as small as possible so it doesn't get beamed into a bulkhead or something. Yeah, because they need to get to they figure out that the entity or the intruder is residing after they've done a couple, power cycles. They realize that it's living on one of the F302s, and so they have to go out and pull the serial hard drives off the 302s in order to basically disconnect them so the entity can't live there while they restart. We get some cool things where, it's the same F302 interior, but they dress it up a different way. One of them has photos of Peter DeLuise's pregnant wife at the time in it. There's various keychains and other photos that are there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I noticed like a duck at one point, but I couldn't. It was a quick shot, and I couldn't quite tell if it was just like a cable that looked weird.
No, they have different like keychains and photos in each of the interiors.
That's kind of what I thought. Yeah.
And actually, our Peter DeLuise cameo in this is when Dr. Beckett is looking through the files of all the doctors who are more qualified than he is, and he's trying to assemble his team. One of the photos of one of the doctors is a headshot of Peter DeLuise.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I like going back to the space dogfights they do. I appreciate that they do the thing where they recognize that in space there is no up or down and there's no wind resistance. So the F302s, when they need to turn, they just turn end over end and go the other direction. I always like it when science fiction actually takes advantage of that.
And I like how their wings actually are an airfoil too, so they can enter atmospheres and dogfight and stuff, but they don't need them obviously in space.
They're heat sinks.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're able to shoot down the robot or the entity piloted F302, which effectively purges the virus, but exposes McKay to quite a lot of radiation and gives him a sunburn later.
Yes. Needs to get that ointment.
Yep.
Well, that storyline gets picked up. I can't remember if it's next time or it's one coming up where they're going to some high radiation planet and McKay's all worried. He's like, I'm tracking the amount of radiation I get every time I'm out in the sun, and he's wearing like a radiation suit and his own like special formula of sunscreen. And I don't know that I think this is the first time we get this like little personality quirk of his. Is he doesn't want to be like, he's afraid of that specifically.
He's going into space. So that already is going out the window.
Exactly. He had to go through the Van Neumann belt or whatever, and or Van Allen belt or whatever one of it is. But yeah. And so when they finally do make it to Atlantis, we get a really great single take shot of people coming through the gate. Zelenka's running down the hall. He talks to Weir. Tayla's there. I guess they left her in charge for some reason. And Tayla's talking to Weir, giving her the update on everything. And she's talking. Ford and Beckett leave, and they walk into the office and they're showing off all the information about the ancient labs and stuff that they've discovered, and it's all done. And then it pans down and shows like all the people, I guess being beamed in. They really don't say how they get off the ship, but coming off and disembarking and stuff to show that going forward, there's going to be a lot more people on the city than we've seen before.
I'm glad they have that connection with Earth now, but it's not a connection that is they didn't make it too easy to get back to Earth, so you can still have that tension and that distance of them being far away. Like just the fact that it takes the Daedalus like almost a month to fly there. Whereas oftentimes when you have a hyperdrive, it just travels at the speed of plot. You can get anywhere instantly. So
like Star Trek nowadays, it's like, that's halfway across the galaxy. We'll be there in 20 minutes, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And they do later on in the show kind of come up with a fix to eliminate that. Cause it's kind of cool. They have a problem. Like we can't get back to Earth or Earth can't get to us and they can't get to us. And then by season one, that's fixed, or I guess beginning of season 2, that's fixed. And then they have the next problem. Okay, we can get to Earth, but it's going to take a while, and they eventually will come up with a fix for that too. So I think I like how they kind of slow play it, and it's like a slow, it doesn't drag on one way or the other.
Yeah, and it gives them time to actually work on the solution too. It's not like we had this idea, 20 minutes of screen time later, suddenly we can pass between. They actually have to like work and develop their solutions and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, and so again, I don't know why they left Taylor in charge, but I mean, with Major Shepard and Weir and Rodney and Beckett and everybody, like there's no one really left, I guess, and so they had to put the alien in charge of their. I don't know.
Zelin could be in charge.
Yeah, or yeah.
It is funny though, thinking about this in context of SG-1 having just encountered the Ori and that threat coming up. It's like you have the Wraith now and you have the Ori. I feel like if you're presenting both those problems to the Pentagon and to the president, he might be like, let's just turn the Stargate off and stop attracting these massively overpowered alien races towards us.
Well, at this point, and we haven't seen Avalon yet not Avalon. We haven't seen Origin yet, so they don't really know about the Ori.
That's true.
Or at least the Stargate Command doesn't know about the Ori. Daniel and Vala have just found out about them and are about to learn more.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a little bit of confusion in the timeline because Landry's there, but then also, we don't know if this is how far this is. There's time gaps that we like. This presumably is taking place after the events of Origin, but it's not.
Yeah, it would have to. Yeah.
Yeah, because in Avalon, Daniel's upset that he wasn't able to get on the Daedalus to go to Atlantis. So at this point, it's been probably like a couple months since then.
Or at least a month, even if Weir was able to. But Caldwell's there, which means that this conversation's happening after he's flown back. So that's 2 months at least.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
We'll just let it slide.
I'm trying to think of there's some points where the two shows kind of sync up a little bit. I think later in season 9 or early season 10, there's an episode where there's kind of a point of synchronization. There's a couple other like kind of crossovers to some extent before the SG-1 ends. So.
Nice.
Even some after SG-1 ends too.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. Got to keep that going. Yeah. Did y'all have any other thoughts on this episode?
No, I just the only other thing was it was kind of funny how they could pretty easily take out the memory of the F302s. Like it was just basically a hard drive they could just pop in and out, which is maybe kind of
hot swappable. Yeah.
Rugged hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah. But no other thoughts. It was a fun one, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. Did we have any alternate language titles for this one?
Yeah, most were the Intruder in German, der Eindringling, which is the intruder, or in Japanese, Shin Nusha, the intruder. And then in French, it's called, this episode was called IA, which is what the French call AI.
Intelligence artificial or something.
Artificial.
I cannot even pretend to do a French accent. So.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Apple's whole Apple Intelligence thing that they're doing, where they're trying to basically co-opt that in French? Do they call it Intelligence Apple?
Intelligence Palm or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
IP.
Awesome. Well, before we go, we would like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Stargate, including Father Leo H., John N., Elizabeth T., Carrie B., and James I. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and find the video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send us feedback, you can visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of SG-1, Origin. Until then, Jeff Haker, thank you for joining us and sharing the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
Thanks, Jack, and crap, indeed.
Amen. Once again, I'm Jack Baruzzini. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?